saying like somebody that will help them, like the children have been raised with their father, he can't comb their hair or anything, but they can come to the center. We can have somebody who wash their hair and comb their hair, like put plaits in their hair so it lasts a week. Good evening, St. Lucia, and welcome to another edition of Newsmaker Live with Laura. If it's Wednesday, it's Newsmaker Live, where we make your stories our stories. Tonight is going to be a good one. It's going to be touching, it's going to be sad, it's going to be outrageous. But whatever the feeling, I guarantee you, you will feel something. And hopefully, you will be galvanized to move and take action. But first, trending issues. Sexual discrimination. Some people have it tougher than others. Some people, like the LGBTI community, really take the brunt of it. In recent past, we've heard of the legalization of gay marriages in the United States of America. And, as to be expected, we in St. Lucia get that feeling of angst. It is said that when North America sneezes, we catch a cold. And so it would be only natural if we worry and we were concerned that the pervading culture of the United States would filter into our own. But does that mean that we now have to discriminate against our own? Last week, the president of the Teachers Association was quite inflammatory, to my mind, in his pronouncements about the curriculum and the impinging of the rights and values of teachers if asked to teach unsavory and distasteful subject matters such as homosexuality and how it impacts the family unit. Now, I say inflammatory because the way in which he couched his statements, though they may be real concerns for a vast number of teachers, it could be offensive to some of his teachers who could be gay, some of his students who could be gay, and who are confused about what they're feeling, because a lot of students, you know, when they're going through between the ages of 11 and 18, they're confused. It's a time of self-awareness, and those statements, to my mind, did not show compassion and care for those teachers whom he represents and the students who are in his care. This week, it's all about the possible discrimination of gay police officers within the Royal St. Lucia Police Force. Some parties citing the buggery laws of St. Lucia. But have we forgotten that homosexuality in and of itself is not illegal? It is the act, the coming together, the showing of their love and their union is what is illegal. So when we come out and discriminate openly against groups of people, what is the message that we're sending out? Are we showing that we are a nation that cares, a nation that is concerned with the rights of every individual. I have often said I have my own views on homosexuality. But does that give me the right to force it onto some other person? Think about it. What if it was your child? Your mother, your father, your sister, your brother, your aunt, your uncle, your godchild. How would you feel? Speaking of police officers, this week we've also heard of fraudulent police officers. You know, while the Police Welfare Association is busy going about trying to defend the actions of some police officers, their honor, you have some police officers actually doing the opposite and destroying the very same honor and image that the Police Welfare Association is trying to keep intact. We have heard of police officers who have committed fraud, and I won't even begin to go into the extent of the skimming because it is so ridiculous. It is so ridiculous how you could have sworn to uphold the law, to care for the lives, well-being, and property of the nation, and yourself be implicated in damaging property and in trying to scheme the very same people whose lives that you have sworn to uphold. It's just ridiculous. Shame on you, police officers. Shame on you for putting shame in the eyes of well-meaning and well-serving police officers. Now to the real crux of the issues burning in St. Lucia this week. And I name it Victoria burning. Why Victoria burning? Because it just seems like Victoria Hospital cannot catch a break. Every time you think that this hospital is going to be on the upward swing, yet another horrific story of some incident that took place at Victoria Hospital. This week we heard of a pregnant teen accusing Victoria Hospital nurses of neglect. She went into the hospital in pain, suffering, and rather than leave the hospital feeling better, she gave birth at 7 months, her baby dies, and she is left in the hospital fending for herself. From her accounts, vomiting, left in a delivery room by herself, being neglected, not being looked after, and in the process, giving birth. After having given birth, by her accounts, a nurse came in, clipped her umbilical cord, took away her baby, and then pronounced that the baby was dead. But what is most annoying to my mind is that an investigation has not yet been launched, but we are hearing from officials of the hospital that the hospital is not responsible for the death of the baby, that the baby died through complications. The baby was immature, and so the baby died. But how do you know that the hospital was not at fault in causing the death of this baby when an investigation has not yet been launched or even completed? It boggles the mind how officials, rather than do the right thing, sympathizing with the aggrieved and promising to look into the matter, launching an investigation, and presenting the facts as uncovered after the investigation, but rather will try to cover all tracks, theirs, their nurses, the hospitals, and say that the hospital was not at fault. Where do you get off? Where do you get off? How do you think that this young mother feels? Where is the concern? Where is the care? Do we care at all that lives entrusted into our hands are just squashed like flies and mosquitoes? Do we care? Now, this comes on the heels of another patient complaining vociferously about treatment meted out to her at this very same hospital by nurses there. Came in with a diarrhea, complaining, vomiting, and what? And what? Being left to her own device, asking for a bed, no care being given to her. Actually, and this is alleged, by the way, because again, investigations have not been launched. We have not heard anything from the hospital, so we really don't know what's going on. We're just hearing of the citizens complaining about the service that is meted out at the hospital. Do we care, Victoria Hospital, that time and time again, citizens who go in as patients come out complaining bitterly of the services rendered at the hospital? We cannot afford these kinds of services. Our people are just that. They are people. Not inanimate objects, not animals, and even then, not even animals deserve to be treated in that manner. Do we care? Now, on Monday, it broke my heart to hear of the number of child abuse cases, or the news items, the number of news items of child abuse cases that was in the news. It just broke my heart. Last year, July, the DPP, Mrs. Veronica Victoria Charles Clark, stated that child abuse in St. Lucia is a matter of grave concern for the island. Sadly, nothing has changed. Just this week, the news was inundated with items of news of child abuse cases. One at least such affected child died. Dead is 4-year-old Milan Jean-Baptiste, whose mother alleges that his father and stepmother abused this child so terribly that little 4-year-old Milan succumbed to his abuse and died. It is alleged that this child had physical marks of violence, bite marks in Lucia, bite marks. Now, it boggles my mind that the father would say that the child didn't fall and he wasn't there, no one was around when the child suffered the abuse or the damage or the pain or the hurt that he suffered. The stepmother alleges that he fell. Well, if no one was around when he fell, then how do you know that he fell? And if you guys, the mother and the stepfather, weren't the ones who perpetrated the abuse on this child, then did you not see him come home with marks of violence on his body? You petitioned the courts to get custody of this child. This child was taken away from the mother because it is alleged that she was of unsound mind. So you take the child from the mother and put him in a home which is supposed to be better. But he comes out dead. Dead. Now the mother has said that she'd seen marks on his body and that some of the bruises were fresh, some of them were healed. That she had reported and made complaints. But was there no one there who cared about that child? No one who thought, oh, maybe she's not just mad. Let me just think to go and see what the situation really was. Now, this mother lost her child, and we have heard so many people come out. So many people come out and say, okay, this child, Milan, was such a nice child, and they're friends of the mother, and, you know, he didn't deserve this, and he's crying out for help. He was crying out for help then. He's crying out for help now. He needs justice. Where were you when this young mother needed your help? Did you care then that this young mother was suffering this alone? That she had to give up her child? Did you then petition to get help or to assist her where she was faulty, where she fell short in providing care for her son? Were you there? Did you care? Now, I'm not saying anybody, putting blame on anybody. I'm not pointing fingers. But it always aggrieves me, it always surprises me and amazes me that these young mothers, these young children will go through these things alone. Nobody's there. You don't hear anything. But then somebody turns up dead or abused or hurt or injured. And guess what? Everybody's there. You know, he was a nice child. She tried her best. The courts did this and the courts took him away. But did you witness on her behalf? Did you do all that you possibly could to ensure that she kept custody of her child? And that even though she had lost custody of her child, that things were rectified when young Millen was still alive. Now, should it be, after investigations are complete, that Millen's father and stepmother were found guilty or wanting or charged, I hope that you suffer the full consequence and brunt of the law. Because young Millen Jean-Baptiste, 4 years old, did nothing, no matter how troublesome he may have been, to deserve such a death. Absolutely nothing. And St. Lucia, today it was young Millen, tomorrow it may be your child, it may be my child, it may be someone near and dear to us. Let us look out for our nation's children. They are our future. When we come back, Caring Hands.